Hi there, welcome to or welcome back to Tiff Reads Books, where I drink huge drinks. It's summertime. I'm trying to stay more hydrated, so I have started making fun flavored waters. Also, look at all this hair. I don't normally film like the day after hair wash because that's a lot of hair. But I am excited, so I just want to say briefly, I'm getting it cut soon. I just made an appointment for a new salon. Reasons. Anyway, let's talk today about the Wayward Children series. So a couple months ago, I did a review of the first 3 books in the series, and now I have finished the next 3 books. So I thought we would talk about them. And this is going to have spoilers for the first 3 books. So if you do not want Every Heart a Doorway, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, or Beneath the Sugar Sky spoiled for you, then please click off now. No hard feelings. If you have read those and you want to talk about the next 3, please stay and we'll have a little discussion. So I finished this one, In an Absent Dream. I always forget the name of this one for some reason. I just can't remember the name. So In an Absent Dream. I finished this one in June, and then I reread Every Heart a Doorway and followed it up immediately with Come Tumbling Down and Across the Green Grass Fields. So like I read those 3 like in the last 7 days. I read Come Tumbling Down on Tuesday while I was in the lab, and then I read Across the Green Grass Fields on Wednesday while I was in the lab. So I just listened to them on audio. Shauna McGuire does narrate Come Tumbling Down, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So first, Wayward Children, if you're still here, it's either because you don't care about spoilers or you have read at least up to this book. So but briefly, basically, children go through portals to find a world where they feel like they're loved and accepted, and they finally fit in and they're happy, and then they come back to our world, and that is where they meet Eleanor West in her home for wayward children. I almost said girls, and that's a whole different book. That's a whole different thing. Anyway, I hope I didn't say girls earlier when I was talking about the series. It's the Wayward Children series. Just fixing that now. So In an Absent Dream is the backstory of one of our characters, Lundy. And we're going to talk about this one first because this is the one that made me want to reread Every Heart a Doorway. So In an Absent Dream is Lundy's backstory and how she came to be the way that she is. And it is quite fascinating because when I re-listened to Every Heart a Doorway, we only get like this little snippet. We get told something like she went to a world that was high wicked and she had to leave on her 18th birthday. So she found someone to make a deal with her that she would like not turn 18, and then they kicked her out. And that is kind of what happened. So there will be some mild spoilers for the plot for each of these books, but I will try to not go into like the ending and details. Although given Lundy's existence in our world in the first book, we kind of know that she's not going to be able to stay in this world. So I don't think we're going to be able to talk about this in the way I don't want to without spoilers. So Lundy's story is that she is a girl in, I believe, the late 60s, early 70s, and she is 8 or 9 years old. And her mom has had a baby, and the baby is like 1 or 2, I think, at this point, because we start off with her turning 6, and there's no children that come to her birthday party because her dad is the principal of the elementary school, and so no one wants to be friends with the principal's daughter. And her dad kind of comes off as this very strict, kind of serious person, and Lundy has kind of taken on these behaviors. She's very prim, she's very proper, she's very strict in the way that she behaves in society, and some of that is because she doesn't have any friends. And when you don't have any friends your age, you tend to act like the adults around you, or at least in a way that the adults accept you. So Lundy kind of has that. She's becomes enthralled in books, and as she ages, her mom starts expecting her to help raise her younger sister. And she starts feeling the weight of what society puts on young women from a very young age. And she's just kind of done with it. So when she's walking home from school one day, she's reading a book as she's walking, and she ends up taking a wrong turn, and suddenly there's this tree, the one that's on the cover here, in front of her with the dog. Sorry. You are okay. You went upstairs all on your own. I didn't send you. Can you go lay down, please? he does this thing where he goes into another room and then he comes down and he like whines at me like, why would you send me away? And I'm like, I didn't. So anyway, she finds this very ornate door and she goes through it, and all along are these rules. And I don't remember the specific rules. Let me grab them for you actually, because that could be helpful. So of course on top of the door it says be sure. This is a thing, every single door in this world that you go through that takes you to another portal has be sure above it. So, but while she's walking along inside of this like tree tunnel, there are more rules. And the first one is ask for nothing. Rule 2 is names have power. Rule 3 is always give fair value. And rule 4 is rule 5, where's rule 4? Rule 4 is take what is offered and be grateful. And rule 5 is remember the curfew. So these are very important rules for this world. This world, every Heart of Doorway calls it a high wicked world. So every Heart of Doorway gives us this compass of worlds. You have high logic and nonsense on the same axis. So if you think of it as a graph, right? The ones we learned in high school where you have your y-axis and your x-axis and you have quadrants, okay? So we have nonsense and logic, and then we have wicked and virtue. These are the major points of what they call the compass, and they have some minor ones that they've talked about in the book as well, and I find this idea kind of fascinating. So she is in I believe a high logic, high wicked world, essentially. And I can't quite figure out exactly what makes this world wicked and virtuous, and I definitely agree with Nancy on that in the first book. She's like, I don't understand what makes a world wicked and what makes a world virtuous, when some worlds that are supposed to be really virtuous have kicked people out for things that seems rather wicked. So what defines those two things? So I can't wait to get further in and have the characters explain it to me more, what Sean and McGuire's idea of that is. So the main thing in this world is we're in a goblin market, essentially. No one is a goblin, but it's a goblin market. So we're by the rules of the Fae, okay? So never give your first name. That's rule 2, right? Names have power. So you never give your true name. And that's why Lundy starts going by her last name, which is Lundy. And rule number 1 is, where'd rule number 1 go? Ask for nothing. So you can't ask for something in this world, because if you ask for it, then you are now starting a contract with the person that you were asking for it from. So I hate when people do this, but it's this kind of thing where it's like you can never be direct about something. Oh, I would really like it if we could do this. Instead of, will you do this with me? It's always I would really like it if we could do this. And so you're talking around the thing. I hate when people do that. But again, we are bargaining with the Fae. So we never ask for anything from the Fae. We never give the Fae our true names. And always give fair value is the interesting one in this. And one of the reviews I read said that they had heard the word fair value so much and they still have no idea what it meant, and it's lost all its meaning. And actually, fair value is very interesting. It's a societal concept, and it reminds me, I said this in my wrap-up of June, but it reminds me a lot of the system in the Monk and Robot books called the Pips, where I believe it's a Pip. You basically do a service or give a product to someone in the Monk and the Robot, and then you have like a little system that they can add points, essentially, to that you've contributed to the community or an individual person through this service. And now you can go spend them with anybody else. So instead of transferring money from one person to another, you are transferring it into the community pool. The fair value thing is kind of like that, except for that you can either do it directly to that person. We can make an exchange. If I say, oh, I would really love it if you would knit me a scarf, and you say, I could knit you a scarf in exchange for half of the apples off of your tree this year, right? That could be considered fair value because it takes a long time to knit a scarf. It takes a lot of materials, maybe a sweater, not a scarf necessarily. Scarves are kind of quick, but that's kind of the thing, right? So, but then if you take that in debt, then you have to earn it off through the rest of the community. So say I don't get a full tree's worth of harvest of apples, but I owe you like a half of that tree. I could make a deal that I can give you the other half. I can give you half of what's actually there instead of half of like what should be there. And then I can earn off the debt through acts of community service. And it's a self-sustaining system in that the world actually inflicts the punishment, essentially, for not having a good deal. The world does that so that no individual person can put pressure on another person. Nobody can ask for anything unfairly, because if you ask for an unfair thing, then the world punishes you too. And so that's kind of, it's an interesting take on socialism, basically, with an act of punishment through the world so that no individual has the power. And what the world does is it gives people feathers. It turns them into birds, which is very, very interesting. And they can come back from it if they do enough acts of service, but people tend to lose themselves in the life of a bird. So Lundy has this adventure. She saves a friend. She does all these other things. The main thing that bothered me in this book was there's one, the end of the first part when she comes back home for the first time. She's traipsing home after fighting the Wasp Queen and having a friend die, and we didn't get to see any of that. We just got told it happened. And I was like, I want to see that shot. And it's hard because these are all under 200 page books. So how are you going to fit that in? But I actually think it would be nice to have these be longer novels where we could actually see some of that action, because I've noticed it's kind of a trend in some of these books where we don't see a lot of the action. We just get told that it happens, and that does kind of give them this kind of cozy thing, because we are usually coming to a character after the thing has happened instead of having to sit in the tense situation. So Lundy grows in this world. She goes home, and then she has to try and go back, and her door repeatedly opens to her. Unlike a lot of the other children whose doors close to them, hers repeatedly opens anytime she wants it to open, but she has forces in our world keeping her from going to those doors, and she has to figure out how to get to them. And then she ends up, so this is where I'm gonna be a little spoily, because the ending, I was kind of meh on this one. I was like, oh, it's fine. It's whatever. It's not my favorite, until we got to kind of the last part. So here's a spoiler for the last part. What makes Lundy make the deal of not turning 18 so she can continue going in and out of the door while also staying in our world? Because at 18 she has to make a choice. And this is a recurring thing in these books, is by whatever that world or our world views you as an adult, that's when you have to make the decision on which world you're going to stay in. And some people don't get to make the decision, have it made for them. Others, like Lundy, get the chance to make that decision. And Lundy is struggling because she feels at home in the world. She wants to go back to that world. That is her place. But her younger sister has guilted her because she wants Lundy to be there to witness her graduate and to witness her get married and have kids and all this stuff. She's like, I want you to witness these things. Never I want to do these things with you. Never I want to experience them with you. But I need you to do this for me. And Lundy is so people-pleasy throughout the entire book. And only when she's in that world does she start to kind of make her own decisions. And even a few times in the beginning, she makes really bad decisions because she's doing them for what she thinks makes her a good friend. And she's giving so much of herself for other people that she doesn't notice when she's doing things that hurt herself. And that is kind of the point of this book, is that we can only give so much of ourselves until we start to hurt ourselves, in addition to this whole unique system. And Lundy never truly learns that, because she still tries to give up everything in order to make her sister happy. Her sister was very young when she first went away, didn't even know her, but her sister needed the idea of a sister there, of an older sister there, to essentially be an additional parent for her. She didn't want to do things with her. She wanted Lundy to see her do things. And it was just so heartbreaking to have Lundy cave and cave and cave and not learn that lesson until it resulted in her getting this curse where she ages backwards. And that, I think, was the part of it that I was like, I really like this ending. Why did we not do there wasn't enough of it. This wasn't as meaty as the Jack and Jill ones, which I think are Shannon's favorites, are the Jack and Jill ones, because those ones have so much more kind of oomph behind them than this one. And I think this one could have done so much more, especially as someone who is an older sibling and experienced certain types of this stuff. It would be so nice to have gone a little bit more into it. So that's In an Absent Dream. And that is where then I wanted to go back, because now we've kind of, in the first 4 books, we followed a lot of the same characters. And so I was like, okay, let me go back and reread Every Heart a Doorway. So I don't have physical copies of books 5 and 6, but we're going to talk about them anyway. So I'll put a thing here. So Come Tumbling Down continues the Jack and Jill story. And this is why I said I think that they are Shannon's favorites. Also, she narrates Down Among the Sticks and Bones and Come Tumbling Down. So it's got to be a reason. Jack and Jill are back again. And this one is kind of fascinating because, and again, we're just gonna go with spoilers, okay? So we're just gonna go with spoilers. So Jack and Jill are back. At the end of Every Heart a Doorway, Jack carries Jill's body through the door back to the moors, because at the end of Down Among the Sticks and Bones, we learn that Jack always had access to the door. She was not exiled. Jill was exiled because Jill killed Jack's girlfriend in a fit of part jealousy and also part I need to be what the vampire lord needs me to be, even though all she had to do was wait until her 18th birthday until he was just waiting for her to be 18 basically before he changed her into a vampire. And because of her impatience and her desire to always have whatever she needed, and blaming Jack for that anytime Jill got told no, it was Jack's fault, even though Jack wasn't there half the time. Like, she was like, oh, you always get what you want, and it's always because you want something one way that it happens, when Jack's just trying to live her best life, like, in this world. And it's this sibling rivalry that happens in nature, and also happens when parents don't support their children. And so we have so much of that in these books. But in the beginning of Come Tumbling Down, Jack is coming through the doorway, but it doesn't look like Jack. It's Jill's body. But Sumi, who is, surprise, back because of the events of Beneath the Sugar Sky, is like, no, that's Jack. So they all find out what happened, and that basically as soon as Jack went back, within a few months, Jill decided she was going to steal Jack's body, because if you've died, you can never become a vampire. Your body won't allow it. But in their world, you can resurrect yourself, and or you can have someone resurrect you. You can't resurrect yourself. Somebody can resurrect you. We kind of have like a Frankenstein thing going on at the same time, with lightning and resurrected bodies and pieces stitched together and all these things. And Jill wanted to swap bodies, which can also be done with great risk. And as soon as the body swap was done, Jill completely killed Jack's master, her doctor that was teaching her. So we have this whole like sibling thing, and like, how much will you do for someone else? Because at this point, Jack has already saved Jill twice before the events of Every Heart a Doorway, and she has saved her from her consequences in Every Heart a Doorway, and she's forgiven her for killing her girlfriend, the woman that Jack wants to marry. She's forgiven Jill for killing her, and just kind of moved on, partially because she knows that her girlfriend can be brought back, but she'll never be the same again, and also partially because that's her sister and she's supposed to. And so again, we have this kind of giving up what you desire for a family member. And this is Jack saying, no, I'm done. I'm so tired of giving you everything and having you never appreciate anything I do and still continue to blame me for things. So we have this kind of like running through here. I think I liked this one a lot because I like the stories of Jack and Jill. I don't think this one had as much of like a kind of like that self-sacrifice type through line, except for we kind of dealt more with like what makes someone a monster, and how does you become a monster, essentially. And Jack viewed herself as that consistently throughout the book because of the fact that she like was kind of willing to go as far as she needed to go for whatever she needed to get. And instead it was just very much that Jack views the world as fairly rigid, and in a sense of the rules of her world are much more flexible than ours, but she views them in like science and not science, and like beneficial and not beneficial. She's very clinical in her understanding of things. The one thing I wasn't sure about was the definition of OCD in this book, and I don't know enough about it, but we were kind of very much leaning into the whole you need things to be clean and orderly and have like specificities about your like things you can touch, things you can't, and that type of stuff. And I don't know how much that is the actual, I don't know if that's accurate or not. So I want to put that out there, and that feels very much like what I was always taught that OCD was. So I don't know, and I've always been taught that I've been told that was wrong, that what I was taught was wrong. So I just want to put that out there. I think Cora is in this book again. So she was in Beneath the Sugar Sky. She's on this adventure again, and Cora has a lot more healing to go before I will fully like enjoy her character, I think. Cora is been like bullied for her weight constantly, and so her initial instinct anytime anyone's talking to her is to be like, oh, they just think I'm fat, they just think I'm fat, they just think I'm fat. And it gets a little grating after a little while, where I'm like, girl, you've been at this school for like what, how many months now? Let it go. Like, let it go. Like, but I get it. Like, she just needs more healing still. And so she had kind of like a minor part in this. I think there was a lot going on in here, and I kind of did want it to be longer as well. So not my favorite of the Jack and Jill stories, but I still enjoyed it. I think it had a good resolution. We had some cool like bone horses, and we got more of Christopher, and I really like Christopher. I think Christopher is a very good character. that's introduced to us in the first book, and he's in Beneath the Sugar Sky. We get more about Christopher, and we got a little bit more about him in this one as well. And so I'm waiting for his book because I really like his character. So that was Come Tumbling Down. And then the last one, Across the Greengrass Fields. So I have mixed feelings about this one. I enjoyed it overall. I gave it a 4. Overall, I really enjoyed it because I think it was clear and concise. And it's one of the standalones in the world where it doesn't take part in the school at all. And so this one does that too. It doesn't take part in the school. But unlike In an Absent Dream, which has like spoilers for Every Heart a Doorway kind of, Across the Greengrass Fields, you could read it without having read any of the other ones. It is very much a self-contained story. And this is the horse girl one. So this one has mixed reviews from people because it's the horse girl one. And actually, so I grew up with horses. I have horses. I did 4-H. I've never been like, I'm a horse girl because I was never like obsessed and everything needed to be horses. And horse girls are scary. They're very scary. But I do have like opinions about things. But some of that is like, if I have information about something, I hate it when other people are wrong. It's a very bad habit that I'm working on, not being like, actually, like, I don't want to be like a well, actually, right? So, but I am like, and so I get frustrated sometimes about things. So I have some opinions on this one. But basically we are following Reagan, and Reagan is, we start off with her at like 8 when she has this little friend group of 2 other little girls, and one of them is definitely the mean girl of the group, and the other one is a little bit more free-spirited. And the free-spirited one brings a snake one day, and the like boss girl is like, girls don't play with snakes, what is wrong with you? She's very much like a gender essentialist type character even at that age, and who knows what kind of home she's raised in. But so she ostracizes that other girl and basically tells Reagan, if you play with her, like, you're dead to me, essentially, is kind of what happens, right? So Reagan makes her choice because it's easier to go along with the mean one who can ruin your life than to be friends with the person you kind of prefer. So that's what little 8-year-old Reagan does. And then at 12, I believe she's 11 or 12, all the girls around her start talking about puberty, and Reagan starts questioning why she isn't starting to go through puberty. 11 is a little bit young, but it is kind of like, I knew plenty of girls that did. So we're gonna age aside. She talks to her parents and finds out that she's intersex. She has XY chromosomes in a female presenting body. And I actually just learned the term for this in the nonfiction book that I'm listening to, and I completely forgot what it was, but I was like, that's funny, because I finished up that book and then went back to the nonfiction and we were talking about that, and I was like, huh, that's good timing. So I looked this up, and it happens to 1 in about 80,000 babies born, which is roughly 4,500 babies a year in the United States if you do the math for the number of births that we have here per year. So rare, but not unknown. So it happens. Anyway, this has kind of shattered her world because she was not prepared for this throughout any other experience in her life. And we do get like some POV from her parents, like in their heads and stuff, where they're like, maybe we should have like done this differently, addressed it differently or earlier. And basically they didn't know how to handle telling her. And it's like, me from an outside, I'm like, you could have started her in therapy from a young age. So, or you could have talked to a therapist about how to talk to her about it, but that's outside the story. Anyway, so she goes to school the next day and she ends up telling her best friend, and her best friend predictably freaks out over it and starts screaming about how she's a boy and all of this stuff. And so Reagan runs away and she finds some trees that make a doorway in the woods, and she gets found by a lady centaur who is farming unicorns. And she gets told that every time a human comes to this world, it's because they need to save the world. And so we're dealing with destiny in this, essentially, because in the beginning, when Reagan is dealing with her friend bullying the other girl for not acting the way a girl should, her mom brings up the point of destiny and about how like your body doesn't determine like who you are or how you act or what you like. And so Reagan has kind of this idea of these conflicting ideas from her social circle and from her parents. One being like, you get to shape what you are and who you are, and then one from her social pressures being like, it's predetermined for you. So when she goes into this world and she's told that now her destiny is to save this world, she's like, fuck that, and she kind of fights against it. And the centaurs are like, you are a human, you are a person, you have free will, and we will not force you to go to the queen, because she's supposed to go be presented to the queen so that the queen can help her save the world or whatever. So they're like, we're going to give you the choice because there's no law that says it has to be immediately. So she stays with them for quite a few years, and within like I think a year of them being together, they go to this fair where Reagan gets kidnapped, and she finds out that the queen might not be what they all think the queen is. So everybody kind of runs away and she ends up living in the woods with these centaurs for the next like 5 years until it's determined she has to go on her quest now. Like she has to go. So she ends up going and discovering kind of like a Wizard of Oz type of thing. And the ending is kind of the part of it that I wasn't really a big fan of because I think we rushed it. I looked down and I had like 35 minutes left as like not my listening time, but the play time. Like 30 minutes left, 35 minutes. And we were starting the quest to the castle. And I was like, really? Already? Like, that's all that's left? So very short, but we kind of had this like discussion of like destiny, shaping your own destiny. What is personhood? What makes someone a person? And I really liked that aspect of it. I liked the idea of everyone in the world being some sort of ungulate. Like we had like satyrs and we had peritons. We had all the ruminants and ungulates, and like everything was like some hoofed animal essentially. And I mean, she went to the hooflands. So that was interesting, and what a world shaped for people that have hooves would look like, and the benefits of having non-hooved feet in a hooved world. There was a lot of talk about thumbs, but I enjoyed that aspect of it a little bit. But I think overall what I enjoyed was kind of Reagan learning to just be herself and have her own desires, and I wish we would have gotten a little bit deeper into that. So I actually enjoyed it more than like Beneath the Sugar Sky. So it was weird. It was weird. But overall, I think so far I'm pretty happy with the series. I like if you think about them deeper, kind of like underlying messages of each of the books, as well as just the story and the world that Shonen has created, and this idea of like these portal worlds where people are accepted and can be themselves and that type of stuff. So I think it's getting better as it goes on, but there's like so far I've done 2 sets of 3. So I'm 6 books into I think book 10 is the one that either 10 or 11. And I've said this every single time. I can never remember if it's 10 or 11 that comes out in January. But each set is different enough that it makes me want to come back to it. I don't feel like it's played out yet. And I'm happy to keep revisiting this world and these characters. And I'm ready to go back to like the main cast, because I do know that there is a Christopher book. I can't remember which one it is, but I was watching Books and Lala like last year or the year before. Maybe it was like 2 years ago, man. I think I was living in my old place. So it might have been like 3 years ago even. But so that means I'm just about to Christopher's book. But I know he has one. I know there's a mermaid one too. So I think because Korra has to have something coming up. And I need to know more about Cade. I really like Cade. Cade is probably one of my favorite characters. He's just so solid and so much more kind of mature than everyone else, which is kind of nice when everyone's young. So this is another one of those like written about teenagers but not for teenagers type of books, but a mature teenager could handle these, but there is like swearing and stuff in them. And but I think a mature, like a 16, probably 15, 16, 17 would be fine, but I wouldn't give this to a younger, like 13 or 14 maybe. Some of them yes and some of them no. I don't know. It depends on what kind of things you approve your kids reading, because there is a lot of swearing in Every Heart a Doorway. So depends on where you're at with that. But yeah. So that is what I read. That's what I've been reading. I will see you on Tuesday with a wrap up.